Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 992, December the 20th, 2019, Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, well, we have a lot to talk about today as usual. Hopefully today I'll be slightly less angry than I was yesterday. I'm feeling a little better. And, as I said yesterday at the beginning of the video, I said, Madam Botox and the Democrats are going to have one day of enjoyment, and from there it's all downhill. And of course, that is already proving to be true with a couple things that just happened in the past 24 hours. First of all, the USMCA has passed. Now, I think the original plan for Madam Botox was not to give Trump that victory, but I think that it was this disastrous attempt at impeachment from the Inquisition that forced her to bring this up for a vote. And of course it passed in overwhelming, like 385 to 41, I think it was. So this is one major piece of the negative fallout for Madam Botox and her party, is they've just given Trump one of his biggest victories, and that was passing the USMCA. Not only is it good for the country, it's going to be something that Trump is going to be able to campaign on. Not only that, because of the situation, Madam Botox wasn't able to put up the fight in the defense budget where Trump was allocating all this money toward building the wall. That is something they wanted to fight. But because of the tenuous position that she found herself in and the fake impeachment, she was forced to back off on that. So the first two pieces of fallout were she was forced to sign on and give Trump a victory on the USMCA, and she was forced to back off fighting him on border wall funding inside the military defense budget. So two huge victories just within 24 hours because of the extreme mishandling of this Inquisition by Madam Botox and her accomplices. And now, of course, we have a third thing. We have Jeff Van Drew officially switching over, becoming a Republican. And, of course, this is the first seat to fall, and we only had to wait one day. I told you that they're going to lose the House. The Democrats are definitely going to lose the House in 2020, and we aren't going to have to wait for 2020 to see that happening. Now we don't need 19 seats to flip the House. We only need 18. And the very first casualty looks like it's going to be Madam Botox as far as in the Congress. It's going to be the Democrats with the first casualty, with Van Drew coming over to be a Republican. And it was a very nice little press conference he did there with Trump. And yeah, he should be a Republican. I mean, he's fairly conservative on most issues. And he's like, there used to be these Democrats, and I remember this during the 70s and 80s, who were conservatives. They were Democrats, but they were pretty conservative. They were actually, many of those conservative Democrats of the 70s and 80s were as conservative, if not more conservative, than some Republicans that we have, such as Mitt Romney, Willard, Barbara Murkowski, Susan Collins. They're liberals compared to some of those Southern Democrats that used to be in the Congress back in the day. So he is right. Of course, Trump used to be a Democrat. Ronald Reagan used to be a Democrat. So it's not unusual to see people flip the party like that. It's just under these circumstances, it was fairly extraordinary. And I'll tell you this, Van Drew is not going to be the only Democratic politician to switch parties between now and 2020. I think that as it becomes more and more obvious to a lot of so-called moderate or business Democrats as we move forward into the political silly season, you are going to see so many of them getting so pressured from the left that some of them, and these will not all be, I'm not talking about members of Congress, I'm talking about members of state houses, state congressional committees, state senate, could be mayors, could be governors, could be other people in government positions, the state treasurer, the county auditor. You could see these people who are business or moderate type Democrats flip and become Republicans. I think we're looking at a big Republican sweep in the year 2020, and it'll have a lot to do with the way that Madam Botox boggled the Inquisition. The thing that's pretty extraordinary about Van Drew, because I remember there was a Democrat who switched over to Republicans back about 10, 15 years ago. But what's different about this is that Van Drew is leaving the party which has the majority and joining the minority party. And that is extraordinarily rare. Normally what you have is someone who's in the minority leaving his party to join the other party, which is in the majority. And that's usually the big reason why they do it. But not this time. Van Drew actually left the majority party to join the minority party. And that speaks volumes as to how severe the divide is between rational Democrats and crazy ones. And there's a lot of rational Democrats out there who are probably right now seriously evaluating what they should do. They know that the far left has pretty much hijacked the party now. I mean, once you've got the speaker and you've got the minority leader, you pretty much got the party, right? So, you know, it's extraordinary because, you know, this far left, they're not really representative of any large swath in the country. It's literally a bunch of people on Twitter, probably many of whom are probably not even old enough to vote. I've never quite seen a party get this badly dismantled based on a kind of a social movement that they can't really even target. You know, I mean, Twitters and these social media sites, I mean, you don't know who these people are. Could be a lot of bots for all we know, but it is extraordinary, and I think that this is just the first shoe to drop. And as I said yesterday, Nancy Botox Pelosi had one good day, her and the Democrats, and from this point forward, it's all going to be very bad news. Now, you probably saw right after she has this presentation where she announces the articles of impeachment pass. Then she does a press conference, and then she gets all snippy at reporters. She answers a question or two about the impeachment, and then after a question or two, she says no more questions about impeachment, and she gets all snippy at some reporters. It's extraordinary. I mean, here she does something, you know, like this, has this deal where she announces the impeachment, the votes passed, and immediately goes to a press conference and then doesn't want to take questions on impeachment. I mean, it's just, the woman's losing her mind. At the same time, she was having trouble talking because her and Biden have some obviously very poor fitting dentures. You would think that being multimillionaires, they would just get implants. They wouldn't be worried about dentures, but who knows? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a dentist. But it's just kind of funny that she's having trouble speaking, and so is Biden, and it seems to be issues with their dentures. It seems to be a Democrat problem. But the more serious of the issues regarding Madam Botox and her commie battalion of demo commies is that it appears now that she's trying to use another technique. Now, this is not coming from Pelosi. Pelosi's acting on the advice of some far left-wing lawyers from lawfare, and they are the ones who are essentially running behind the scenes all that Nadler, Schiff, and Pelosi are doing. And now they seem to have this strategy where they're going to say, well, we're going to hold those articles of impeachment until we see the House rules, and because we haven't named our managers yet, and until we know the rules, we won't know how to name our managers. Well, this is extraordinary. We've never seen this happen before in any of the other previous impeachment hearings. And it's, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer. I don't necessarily understand the rules of the House and the Senate. But let me tell you who does. Twitch McConnell. I'm not a huge fan of Twitch McConnell, but I will give him credit for one thing. The dude knows the rules in the Senate. We have seen him use them over and over again. We've seen him use the rules to get judges appointed. We've seen him use the rules to keep a judge from coming up for nomination. He knows the rules of the Senate. He knows how to play in the Senate, and so it's unclear to me at this point whether or not. Well, I guess this is kind of a crazy strategy. I can't believe this would actually be something they would be trying. But when you look at it on its face, it almost looks like to me like Madam Botox knows that her articles of impeachment are so weak that once they get over to the Senate, there won't even be a trial because they'll have the initial argument for Trump's lawyers will argue against. All the senators just sit there quietly and listen, and then they'll have a vote. And if they get 51 votes, it's over. And I think Madam Botox knows that that's exactly how it's going to go. And that would not look good on her. So it's almost like, it looks like they're going to try to withhold these articles of impeachment from the Senate, and then see if that forces McConnell into invoking some Senate rule whereby he says, well, once you've voted, that's it. It's now in my court, and you don't have anything else to say. So I'm going to announce the trial date, and if you don't send over those articles of impeachment, it doesn't happen. We cancel the entire thing. It's over. And I guess that would be better than the embarrassment that Madam Botox and the Democrats are going to experience if they actually go through with the trial. So I'm wondering if this is maybe a ploy on behalf of Madam Botox and the Democrats to force McConnell into a situation where they have an impasse and the trial never happens, so that they don't have to suffer the embarrassment of what would happen if a trial should take place. Like, Pelosi doesn't want the Senate trial to happen. They're happy, they've got their impeachment vote, and that's all they wanted in the House. They don't want the Senate trial. That's where it all gets exposed and blown up and makes them look bad. So if they can do something to keep that from happening, they claim their victory with getting impeachment vote in the House, but they don't have to suffer the embarrassment of the trial in the Senate. So this is a long shot ploy. And again, I'm not a lawyer, but the president's attorney, Jay Sekulow, has commented on this, and he said, wait a minute, I don't know what Pelosi's talking about, because there's two things that we need to look at here. They're both right out of the Constitution. What Pelosi is talking about is some rules that exist within the House and the House leadership. But Sekulow is saying that the Constitution doesn't say anything about what Pelosi is talking about you have to know what the Senate's going to do before you appoint the managers, who will, of course, appoint the council, who will go represent the side of the Democrats. Sekulow is saying it doesn't work that way. The Constitution says that once they have the vote, and the vote passes for impeachment, then the articles go immediately to the Senate, and if they don't show up in the Senate can request them, and if they don't show up to the Senate after a reasonable amount of time given for them to be delivered, then they can cancel the whole thing, which is what McConnell may be suggesting. But that there's nothing in the Constitution that backs up Pelosi's argument. It's a House rule, not a constitutional thing. So the Senate doesn't necessarily have to be on board with House rules. And he says that once you have the impeachment vote, at that point it goes to the Senate. The game's up for the House. It's now in the Senate's on their court. So again, we'll have to see how this plays itself out. It's obviously going to be pushed back into the 6th at least, because that's the next day that Congress will be back in session. They're now out for Christmas break. So we will have to wait and see how this plays out, but it does not look good. I don't see how the demo commies get a win here. I just do not see it. Now, they could try some political stunt and say, well, McConnell is not playing by the rules, therefore we're going to declare a mistrial or something like that. But that's this stuff out of Saturday Night Live. It's comedy. You see a lot of liberals making comments about that, but that's not going to fly. And McConnell isn't going to let himself be played like that. Certainly not by Madam Botox. They're not all that friendly toward one another anyway. So this is not going to fly. Again, as I said yesterday, the Democrats had one day that they could bask in the warm glow, but from that point forward, I said it's all going downhill, and we see it today, and we'll continue to see it day after day after day. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. If the Demo-commies were smart, they would let this thing go to the Senate, let it be killed immediately, let it go away quietly, and they would do something else. The longer this goes on, the more it hurts the Demo-commies, and the more it helps Trump and Republicans. This is why I don't see a winning strategy here. but we'll have to keep watching to see what tricks the demo commies may have up their sleeve. But I'm telling you, it's a loser, whichever way they go. And I'll tell you this too, if Pelosi boggles this thing really badly, and she's already boggled it pretty badly, if she boggles this thing really badly and continues to boggle this thing really badly, and it ends up really being obvious that she bungled this thing up, she will likely be forced out of her seat. That's very likely. I'd put it at about a 50-50 shot that Pelosi lasts until November of 2020. She's walking on a very thin edge right now. Well, it looks like the bug-eyed fool is now going to target Mike Pence. He's saying that Pence is hiding information from the Ukraine investigation. Well, why don't they have a Ukraine investigation? I think there should be a Ukraine investigation in both the House and the Senate. And let's bring in Biden, both the Bidens. Let's bring in those two prosecutors. Let's bring in Poroshenko. Let's bring in Yatsenuk. Let's bring in the whole crew. Let's air it all out. I'm all for it. Well, it looks like Obama's doctor is now saying that Biden is not a healthy guy. Oh, man. So yesterday, here comes Biden's doctor to come out and say, yeah, Joe Biden's as healthy as a horse. He's doing great, man. He's just absolutely fantastic. But then the very next day, you get Obama's doctor to come out and refute that and say, no, Biden's not a healthy guy at all. You know, I don't think it surprises anyone that Obama didn't come out and endorse Biden, but, he's kind of bitch slapping him around. I mean, these comments he's been making to people that have been leaked to the press. And, Biden can't be very happy about this, and it doesn't matter. I mean, he's, I just don't think much matters at this point as far as Biden is concerned. I would be surprised if he wins a nomination, not totally shocked because the competition's so bad. But I mean, this is not good. This is not good to have Obama's doctor come out and say that Biden is not a healthy guy. That's going to get play, and he won't be challenged on it directly in a debate, but surrogates of the other candidates will start playing around with that. You can bet on that. And of course, we couldn't go a day can't go by without the rotten Reverend Clinton. We talked about yesterday. She was promoting this website, which was supposed to have these marches and rallies and stuff to impeach Trump. Well, I'm not aware of any of them. I guess I don't know if they happened or if they didn't happen. None of them happened around here. So apparently that didn't go very well. But that doesn't stop the rotten Reverend Clinton. She's tweeting out yesterday that Democrats should feel proud and that she's encouraging the demo commies to keep on going. Oh, I agree. I totally agree. For once, I agree with the rotten Reverend Clinton. Yeah, I think they should keep on going. Just keep on doing what you've been doing. I think that's a fantastic idea. You should listen to the rotten Reverend Clinton. After all, if I'm going to get political advice from someone, why not the rotten Reverend? She spent $1.2 billion and lost to someone who spent half that much. And she decided not to go to the very most critical states that were going to decide the election. She decided not to show up. She campaigned 2 or 3 times a week, whereas Trump was doing 3 to 4 rallies a day. I mean, if you're going to take political advice from the rotten Reverend Clinton, be prepared to lose and lose bad. And that's exactly what she's attempting to do. And there'll be plenty of people who will fall in line and take our advice. And I hope they do. I would support the rotten Reverend 100% right here. Yes, I do encourage the Democrats to keep doing what you're doing. 100%. Keep doing exactly what you're doing. I'm a total advocate. Well, we're finding out today that Hunter Biden is refusing to comply with the court order to turn over financial documents. Now, that's not a good idea. Every day, people end up in family court, divorce court, whatever, civil court, over issues relating, a child, out of wedlock child, and child support and alimony arrangements. You have, divorces. And in all these cases, people understand that they're going to have to release to the judge or to someone their financial information. It's the only way you can figure out how much someone has to pay. You got to find out how much they make. This is normal procedure. So I'm not sure what the legal strategy is here for Hunter Biden. But number one, it doesn't look good. And number two, eventually he's going to lose. The judge is saying, we need to figure out how much money you need to pay, and you got to show us some proof. That's from a judge. It's a judge's order, a court order. So I'm not sure what his thinking is here, but, it looks like he's afraid of doing it. That means he may have something to hide, and I'll bet he does. Well, we also have Ruth Bader Ginsburg crawling out of her coma to say that senators can be disqualified from impeachment, from the impeachment trial, if they are not impartial. Well, that's very good news to hear. I'm glad to hear that, that senators can be disqualified from the impeachment trial if they are not impartial. Well, I would say that would be every Democrat in the Senate. Is Chuck the Cuck Schumer impartial? I don't think so. How about the senators all running for president? Warren not only wants Trump impeached, he wants him hanged. How about Comey Bernie? Has he been impartial? No. All these people have already made up their minds. That's the opposite of impartial. Therefore, based on Ruth Bader Ginsburg's idea, every Democrat in the Senate should be disqualified from participating in the event. Thank you very much, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We appreciate that. Hope Twitch McConnell takes your advice and takes that to heart and disqualifies every Democrat on the committee in the Senate. Well, we have a strange article coming out of Italy yesterday. I am not so sure I would buy into it, but it's interesting. And this article is suggesting that Joseph Mifsud may be dead. And they're even giving it an 80% likelihood. 80% likelihood that Mifsud is dead. Well, that's possible, but it's also possible that he's holed up in a government house somewhere in the D.C. area waiting to testify to a grand jury. He might be in a safe house put there by Durham to protect him until he can testify to a grand jury. And then, of course, they'll put him in the witness protection program. That's also possible. I don't think he's dead personally. I've joked about it, but I don't think he is. I think he's still alive. I think someone's protecting him. But I don't know. We don't know. Maybe Durham has spoken with him. Maybe he is in a safe place somewhere. Maybe they did give him protection. Maybe that's what he wanted. Was, hey, I'm not talking to anybody unless you can protect me. And I'm sure Durham said, we can protect you. Oh yeah, we got some places we can put you to protect you, until you can get to a grand jury. And when you're done, we'll give you a new identity and some walking around money, and we'll give you a new life somewhere. So absolutely, no one knows except for Durham and Barr what the situation is with Mifsud. And if he is still alive and Barr and Durham have not been able to locate him or talk to him, then certainly someone there in the Italian Secret Service knows the whereabouts of Mifsud, and someone is protecting him. I'm pretty sure of that. He may be dead, but I wouldn't give it an 80% chance. I'd say more like maybe 5 or 10%. I don't think he's dead. Of course, we have a new YouGov poll that came out yesterday, and of course, YouGov was the second most accurate poll in the 2016 elections, and YouGov is showing that Trump is beating Burisma Joe by 6 points. He's beating Comey Bernie by 26 points. He is beating Warren by 30 points, and he's beating Booty Boy by 41 points. He's obviously gone up at least 6 points since the Inquisition began. Trump is getting stronger, and the demo commies are getting weaker. And this will continue. You know, I'm looking forward to watching this interview with Attorney General Barr and Martha McCollum. I think it's actually later tonight. So I'll be checking. I'll definitely want to watch that. They've already released a few, excerpts from that. And there's two that I was paying attention to that I was watching. One of them is where Barr is commenting on what he said on the Sunday morning show with Chris Ratboy Wallace, where he was saying, well, all this corruption and stuff that happened, it happened like 7 layers below me. As the FBI director, I don't have the details of every little thing going on. And as you know, I said in my video right after that it's a complete opposite of what we all know to be true. That yes, and usually it is field offices that handle this stuff, but in this case, the Trump-Russia thing, no, that was all brought directly into main justice and all run by the top dogs at DOJ and FBI. And this is exactly what Barr says to Martha McCollum. He says, no, he says, I did straighten Comey out here on that. Our investigation shows that just the opposite of what Comey said, that this was elevated up to the top floor, main justice, and they bird dogged it all the way. So he's directly disputing the dishonorable James Comey. He also got after Comey for suggesting that Barr is attacking the FBI. And Barr made perfectly clear, no, I'm not attacking the FBI in general. We're looking at specific individuals, not the entire FBI, just specific individuals, and they are at the tippy top of the FBI. That's the people we're focused on, not the rank and file in the FBI. It's the top leadership at the FBI, not the entire FBI. So he definitely straightened Comey out on those 2 points, and I expect that that'll be a pretty good interview. I'm looking forward to watching it. I'm sure we're going to learn a lot of things. I'm sure he's going to expand on the Durham investigation, which we already know is Barr and Durham are going to take down the deep state conspirators. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. You just watch and see. I have no doubt. There's too many indicators that that's exactly what's going to happen. They're basically saying it. So a couple new things from the IG report. Seems like every day new things are being discovered, or not so much that new things are being discovered, but now we're reading things in the IG report that now that we have that, there's other things that were being looked at or talked about weeks, months, or years ago that now take on a different meaning and have a different, or now maybe put into a better context with the IG report. And I think these are a couple things that are that situation. So we're learning that, and this is in the IG report, that Bill Prestep, who of course, keep in mind, was the #1 guy at counterintelligence, he was the boss of Peter's Been Stroking Us. Bill Prestep wanted Peter's Been Stroking Us removed from the Crossfire Hurricane team. And I think, if I remember correctly, I'd go back in my memory here, if I remember correctly, Prestep was told about the affair that was happening between Page and Strzok. And he actually did call McCabe and say, hey man, I'm finding out about this relationship that's going on between these two, and this stuff's really not good, and everyone kind of knows about it, and that's even worse. And he wanted McCabe to talk to Strzok and Page and let them know that it's everyone's aware of what you guys are doing here, and the boss is aware, your boss is aware of it, and so anyway, that may have been that, or it may have been that Prestep was aware of Peter's Been Stroking Us' bias. It's not clear exactly. They're not saying exactly why Prestep wanted Peter's Been Stroking Us removed from the Crossfire Hurricane team, but that's what he wanted. But apparently, Andy McCabe overruled him. Andy McCabe overruled Prestep. I'm surprised he could do that, because Prestep, I thought, was a higher level than McCabe. Prestep was the #1 in counterintelligence and also served as kind of like, almost like a, not quite equal to Comey, but just slightly below Comey. But I don't know if this occurred when McCabe was acting director. Now, if he was acting director at the time, that would be different. But I think that Prestep was actually, when McCabe was deputy, I think Prestep would have been slightly above him. And also, Peter's Been Stroking Us worked directly for Prestep in counterintelligence. He didn't work directly under McCabe. He worked directly under Prestep. So it seemed like Prestep would have been the one to make that call. And the fact that McCabe would override that decision certainly raises a lot of questions that I'm certain that Mr. Durham will be asking him. Also, something else that I harped on for many times on TowerGate videos regarding the FISA warrants, and keep in mind, I know this because my brother-in-law is a cop, my cousin's husband is a undercover narcotics cop, and these have come up in conversations before. And when I went through my background training for my previous job when I was a fraud investigator for a major retailer, as part of my course we had several chapters on criminal investigations and things and such, and I do remember this. When you go get a warrant, and we're just talking about a search warrant or any type of a eavesdropping warrant, anything like that, if you want to go back and get it renewed, you have to show the judge before he'll renew it how the original warrant panned out. Did it produce any new information? Did it confirm existing information? Produce any new? The warrant, in order to get it renewed, would have to be able to have been successful. It would have to have turned up something to give the judge the incentive to say, yes, I'm going to go ahead and give you a renewal, because clearly your initial instinct that there may be something going on has yielded something here, and therefore it's warranted that I extend the warrant, the search warrant. And that's essentially what a FISA is. It's just a very intrusive one. But here we're finding out that it says in the IG report that the FBI continued to seek renewals of the FISA wiretaps, even though those wiretaps produced no new evidence against Trump aide Carter Page or Papadopoulos, who, by the way, was mentioned in the Page FISA applications. So here we're learning that they got these renewals through the FISA court despite the fact that there was no additional information that was learned. There was no confirmation of the original information that they claimed that they had. These renewals never should have happened. And you certainly fault the FBI and the DOJ and the corrupt players involved. They were certainly misleading and doing fraud on the FISA court. But the FISA court here has the responsibility to say to the FBI, okay, we gave you this warrant 3 months ago. You've had it for 90 days. Have you confirmed your original suspicions through this wiretap? In which case they would have had to have said no, unless they lied. And then they would say, okay, well, have you gained any additional information? And obviously they did not, according to Horowitz. What did they tell the FISA court? Well, he doesn't say that. Horowitz does not say whether or not in this case they were misleading the FISA court, but I assume that is what happened. I assume that Horowitz is wanting us all to assume that because they did all this other stuff and they did all this other fraud and lied to the FISA court, that this was part of the fraud and lies. They lied about what they learned in the first warrant. I guess that's what we can take from this. Because if not, then that falls on the FISA court. It's their responsibility to make sure that the renewals are based on previous information being confirmed or new information being discovered. And apparently that did not happen. So it's just another thing in the very, very big stack of evidence of criminal conspiracy, and it's all unfolding right before our very eyes. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See ya. Bye.